You are listening to the Beltway Wars Invitational Podcast, hosted by Adam Jackson and Patrick Wilton. Enjoy the show.
Welcome to the Week 7 recap on the Beltway Wars Invitational Podcast. 7?
7. Sorry.
I said 7, right?
Yeah. No, I was just counting my fingers.
Oh, I see. Okay. I thought I got it wrong.
My brain did too.
All right. Well, Week 7 recap on the Beltway Wars Invitational Podcast. I have nothing.
Yeah.
I'm dead inside. It was a miserable week for me. You beat me. We had the two lowest scoring teams this week, Adam, but I don't have anything to begin the show with. If you do, great. If not, we'll get into the games.
Yeah, I mean, it's very funny, where the fantasy football commentators were giving the advice, where, giving start, stop, or start, sit advice, things like that, who we start, and we're two of the worst teams in the league this week at least. So it's just very funny. We didn't have a lot of big scores this week, though, and outside of our game. I mean, we've had a 140, we had a couple 140s, 120, 132, so a lot of big scores. I don't really have anything left. Maybe we go over just the current standings just real quick. For right now. So right now, after 7 weeks, there'd be Dustin in the lead with 6-1. Then the Pasadena Pulverizers, second place at 5-2. Timonian Neon Tubes at 5-2 in third place. Columbia Clown College now 4-3. Kind of an interesting little tidbit there. Curtis Bay Chump Buckets 4-3 in fifth place. Reisterstown Rockets in sixth place, and the Union Bridge Badgers rounding off the top 7 at 4-3. Then you had the Westminster Wrecking Crew at 3-4. Penn Prairie Wolves at 2-5. Owings Mills Ozempic at 2-5. Prent Street Po Boys at 2-5. And the Finksburg Kinks at 1-6. So we're about, halfway, a little under halfway. Well, in terms of regular season, we're halfway through the season, so we're going to start talking about bubble teams and clinching playoff spots and things of that nature. But let's get into Week 7. So Pat, you can take it away.
All right. Well, surprising top of the leaderboard this week. I started kind of filling out, writing some stuff down. I think maybe before last night's games, and so at the time, I was looking at the scores and kind of ordering who would be first and who would be, what order we would go through here with the scorers. And Jake's matchup was like third or fourth. And all of a sudden I look today and Jake has the top score in the league. He's had some bad beats recently, so it is fitting and earned and well-deserved that Jake is at the top of the leaderboard in week number 7. He wins 148-12. over Alex's Owings Mills Ozempic, 105-96. So quite a crushing victory there for Jake. Both of these teams now 2-5, as you mentioned. Both are now 9-10 in the standings. Jake at 9 and Alex at 10. For Jake this week, in contributing to that 148, Jackson Dart, a guy who we've been talking about week in and week out. Does it, but doesn't do it necessarily with the rushing yards. He did get the rushing touchdown, but he threw for 283 yards and 3 touchdowns. It wasn't an efficient passing day. He completed less than half of his passes, but at the end of the day, he got the job done in a really interesting game at Denver. Not even going to talk about Christian McCaffrey because he does what he does every single week. Same thing with Jackson Smith and Jigba. Last night, Monday Night Football, 8 for 14, 123 and a touch. A.J. Brown has his best game of the season here, 4 for 6 with, what did he have, 2 touchdowns and 121 yards. Really nice to see there. Not much else for Jake in the starting lineup and not much else for Jake on the bench. This is a team that has suffered from injury this season. We've talked about that.
Yeah.
We've harped on that quite a bit over the last few weeks. Hopefully, this team starts to get healthy. We'll get into a little bit more with the big question. But Adam, why don't you pick one of these studs as your beast of the week?
Yeah, so I think it has to be Christian McCaffrey. I was really watching this game, with the resurgence or return of George Kittle, and it was just Christian McCaffrey. It did not matter who was open down the field, anything like that. They were throwing it to Christian McCaffrey. They were running it with Christian McCaffrey. He had, what was it, attempts? He had over 30 touches in this game. So, heavily involvement, obviously with Mac Jones. The passing game should be limited, but in the past it really hasn't. But really gets off the top here. 35 points, his best score of the year against, as you mentioned last week, a very tough Atlanta defense. So he is matchup proof. He is a top 5 running back going forward. He is now running back number 2 on the fantasy football season, and he is my beast for week 7.
Yeah, interesting to note, McCaffrey has his best game of the season fantasy point-wise. They've all been great, but this one was spectacular, over 30 points. It was his fewest total snaps, just 50 snaps on the year.
Yeah.
He's typically but mid-50s to mid-60s more like. So not a dramatic decrease there, but the fact that he was able to do all of that damage on his lowest total snaps on the season, quite impressive.
And I would also say in this game, the leading wide receiver had 31 yards between tight ends and wide receivers. So it was just feed Christian McCaffrey and let him win the game, and they did.
100%. Well, I didn't mention some of the underperformers here, but probably Sam Laporta's 3 or Kendrick Bourne's 2.4. I'm guessing one of those guys might be your bust this week.
Yeah, it's going to be Kendrick Bourne. Just with coming off the 2, big games, 19 and 16. Now there's a 2 in there. As the 49ers get more healthy, Juwan Jennings, Ricky Pearsall, George Kittle, you're hoping or expecting at least to have more involvement in the passing game. Just kind of where does that leave Kendrick Bourne? Also, Brandon Ayuk, some point, going to be here. He was out walking at practice, so I think the days of Kendrick Bourne being fantasy startable may be coming to an end, just with the 49ers getting healthy again, Brock Purdy coming back soon, and, of course, Christian McCaffrey hogging up all the targets as well. So he is my bust for week 7.
Yeah, interesting. Last week or two, I think I had mentioned on one of the shows that I think the Atlanta Falcons defense is better than they've been given credit for. The thing about the Falcons defense, they are very fast. They fly around a lot. They are pretty good against wide receivers. We saw it in this game. They get destroyed on the ground. Christian McCaffrey proved that, and the lack of a top receiver option for the Niners proved that they are better in pass defense than they are defending the ground game. All right, for Jake, so this was kind of a must-win game for the Prairie Wolves. Jake's squad did it with a really nice point total. This team is still very much on the outside looking in, but there might be a path here. If CMC stays healthy, if JSN maintains his pace as Seattle's clear top offensive player, if A.J. Brown becomes a top 15 wideout, if Trey Benson returns to the field when he's eligible in week 10, if Jackson Dart is for real, if Aaron Jones returns to the field soon, there are some ifs that could potentially materialize. So Adam, this might be take a little bit longer to do, but I just want to look at each one of those scenarios I mentioned and kind of give me a percentage on how likely it is to happen. We'll start with if CMC stays healthy for the rest of the year. Where do you put those odds?
As being the number 1 overall?
No, just staying healthy. I think if he's healthy.
Staying healthy? I put it around probably 80%. He's looked good.
Okay.
No sign of wear and tear. I mean, again, he missed all of last year, so it's kind of you get your body fully rested. It's coming off the injury a little bit, but that also did happen somewhat later in the season. So, it looks fine. Put it around 80%.
Okay. How about if JSN maintains his pace as Seattle's clear top offensive player?
Oh, that's 100%. He is so talented. Sam Darnold and him have a good connection. We saw it there on Monday night as he posterized the official with dunking over the field goal post. That's 100%. He is the best player on that offense and will continue to be.
Okay. A.J. Brown becomes a top 15 wideout. I believe right now he is at receiver 23.
Yeah, I'm going to sell that. I think that this is his best game of the season. Still, don't like the targets. Only 6 targets in this one for a number one wide receiver. It's kind of hard to crack that top 15 on a run first team. Jalen Hurts is going to get his looks. You're assuming that Saquon Barkley is going to step it up here in a little bit. You also have Devontae Smith there. I am selling that he will be a top 15 wide receiver by the end of the season.
It wasn't buy or sell. It was give me a percentage.
Oh, that he's top 15, 20%.
20%. Okay. How about you can take these separately or together? Trey Benson and Aaron Jones both return to the field and become the starting running back for their teams when they are eligible to return. I believe it's next week for Aaron Jones, Trey Benson, maybe a couple weeks out. But that those guys get back to their roles sooner rather than later.
I'm going to put them both at 70%. I know they really do like Jordan Mason there with the Vikings, but I think Aaron Jones kind of gives them a different dynamic in terms of the passing attack as well. I think he does have a role. Trey Benson is kind of all up in the air because just how bad that Arizona offense kind of is. You have Benson, DeMarcado, Michael Carter, Bam Knight. Does that become more of a timeshare between all of them getting around 30% of the snaps? Probably. I'm more confident with Aaron Jones, but Trey Benson should also have a role as well. So
okay, lastly, that Jackson Dart is for real.
Yeah, I mean he is for real, 90%.
Wow.
Runs the ball, throws the ball, everything you really want in a starting quarterback. He's going to have these boneheaded plays where he turns the ball over a couple times, but really haven't seen it here. I mean, 19, 15, 23, 28, trending upwards. Best game of the season, and with the running quarterbacks, as we always say, that always lifts the floor. So very good pickup. I think he definitely wasn't drafted, added by waivers on September 23rd for $11.
Okay, well, I think you understand where I was going with all those questions. Basically, you were 70% or more on all of those good possibilities for Jake, with the exception of A.J. Brown. So if all of those things come true, or at least most of them, I think Jake might have a shot to get back into it here. Needs to string together some wins, but he is not out of it yet.
No, and he did this before, where he was I think he had one win, and he went on to win the championship. So
that's absolutely right.
Definitely not uncharted waters for him.
All right. Well, we spent too much time on Jake, but let's get over to Alex's team here. It is the running back show this week for Alex. Zach Charbonnet, the battle of Seattle running backs and productivity continues. Charbonnet outgained, maybe he didn't outgain him, but he scored the 2 touchdowns in this one. He was 12 for 49. DeAndre Swift, the other one, strings together a second straight really good performance, 19 for 124 and a touchdown. The receivers not as successful, but still okay. Wan'Dale Robinson, 12 targets, 12 and a half fantasy points. Dobbs for the Packers, 10 fantasy points on 72 yards on 8 targets. Another down game for Marvin Harrison Jr. Tucker Kraft, a nice comeback game, 5 for 10, gets into the end zone here. Jerry Jeudy, he's not working. It's not going to work. We'll get into some of the injury guys here later, Adam, so I won't mention Ibuka, who started last night in his game, despite all indications being that he was out. I heard actually on CBS that Ibuka was 11% started because everybody had benched him and didn't have the opportunity to get him in to the lineup.
But remember, there is that sleeper option that you can put him in if he's out. You can auto sub.
Very true. Well, yes, that's true. But even here, it was very unlikely that nobody thought he was going to play until very late in the week. So, so Alex gets the loss here. Was missing Derrick Henry, was missing Josh Allen in this game, has some injury concerns. 105 points, not a great effort. But was there a silver lining here, Adam? with your beast?
Yeah, I mean, you kind of like to see Zach Charbonnet here. 51% snaps, 12 carries, second most of the season for him. 2 touchdowns as well, 4.5 or 4 yards per rush attempt. Kenneth Walker did have 17 carries, so it's still that split, but it seems like they like Charbonnet down in that red zone area, which does provide flex value going forward. So you like to see that. It's more of a 50-50 than not in terms of the Seattle backfield. So he is my beast because he is usable, and he does have some nice matchups coming up with Washington and Arizona in week 9 and 10 after the bye in week 8.
Absolutely. Charbonnet has outsnapped Walker each of the last 3 weeks on the season. Charbonnet 201 snaps to Ken Walker's 185, so does hold the slight edge in snaps there. Okay, how about an underperformer, Adam, your bust this week?
Yeah, it's going to be Jared Judy. It's just bad. Dylan
Droppable.
Gabriel can't get on the ball. He's only targeted 4 times this season low. 2 catches, which isn't his season low, actually. 17 yards, again, not his season low, but still unusable. Now wide receiver number 63. I mean, if you're Alex, you're kind of hoping Cedar Sanders starts and just hope for something different because right now he's not getting on the ball. Also, 68% snap count. Now going lower. Are the Browns trying to see like, okay, let's see what we have in other players? I don't think he got hurt in this one, so you don't like to see that. 68% snap count, lowest of the season. Wide receiver number 63 and 2.5 points for week 7. He is my bust for Alex.
Yeah, this was the rare like game script thing that you would never expect for the Browns, where they're up so big on the Dolphins throughout this game that I don't think he got hurt. I think they just didn't need their elite wide receivers on the field the whole time. Not that he's elite by any stretch. As you mentioned, his lowest target number, his lowest snap percentage on the year. If you were to tell me that the Browns would beat the Dolphins 31-6, I would say, hey, Judy has a pretty good shot at being one of the stars. It was exactly the opposite. Judy is droppable, frankly. I mean, he doesn't have a game of 8 fantasy points all season. He's wide receiver number 63.
First week he had 9.
Oh, he had 9 in the first week? Okay, I missed
that
one. Easy to overlook with as bad as he has been. All right, well, it turns out last week I was wrong about all 3 of Alex's injured players. Terry McLaurin missed a 4th straight game despite all indications pointing toward him playing. Marvin Harrison Jr. and Emeka Egbuka, on the other hand, both beat the odds to play in week number 7. Perhaps they shouldn't have, though. Harrison Jr. caught just 2 of 6 balls from backup quarterback Jacoby Brissett, and Emeka Egbuka had an even less efficient 4 for 12. Yeah. Alex is going to need both of these guys to have a shot this year. So what are your predictions for both Egbuka and Harrison Jr. for the rest of the way?
So Egbuka, I'm still high on, especially with now Mike Evans being out for an extended period of time. I believe that's correct. Chris Godwin, who knows what's going on with him. So I believe that Egbuka will be a top 10 wide receiver by the end of the season. So still very high on him. Marvin Harrison's kind of a different story. Now wide receiver number 33. Can he crack the top 25? I'm not positive. I think he's probably just going to... I think he is what he is. I think he's around that wide receiver 30, type of player. Even with Kyler, even with Jacoby Brissett, whoever it is, it doesn't really matter. Just kind of a dysfunctional offense. They don't seem to find good ways to get him the ball. Only 6 targets in this one, 2 catches his last 2 weeks. So a little more pessimistic, or a lot more pessimistic on Marvin Harrison than I am in Egbuka.
All right, moving on to the next matchup here. Adam, who is the top scorer on the season in our league? Who has the most total points?
That would be the Pasadena Polarizers.
It is indeed. Sarah's team leaps into the lead here with a 147.04 point performance over husband Curtis Bay Chumbucket's Josh Hughes, 103.84, a blowout, a complete blowout here 147, the second highest point total on the week. Sarah advances to 5-2 and is the number 2 seed behind Dustin. Curtis Bay Chum Buckets lose this one to fall to 4-3. Now the number 5 seed. So both Hughes, the Hughes and Hughes team here, both top 5 in the league. Sarah did it with the ageless Patrick Mahomes, who suddenly has found the fountain of youth again and is incredible again. 31-0, he wins over the Raiders, 26 fantasy points. Very efficient day. Didn't even play in the fourth quarter. They pulled him. They didn't need him. I think they pulled all their starters, frankly. And then Jonathan Taylor. I mean, what is there to say? 3 touchdowns in this one. It's his third 3-touchdown game of the season. Very, very impressive. Speaking of finding the fountain of youth, I keep thinking he's old, Adam, because I feel like he's been around so long, but he's only 26. My God, he's a decade younger than we are. That's crazy. 32 fantasy points. Very impressive day there. And then it's the receivers behind him, Keenan Allen and Chris Olave. 2 guys, that we've been liking their target share in their offenses. Keenan Allen, 14 targets this week, 119 yards and a touchdown. Chris Olave caught 2 really deep balls there for the Saints, 24 fantasy points there. Jordan Mason gets into the end zone. Still not terribly efficient on the ground, but 11 fantasy points. You'll take that all day. And then some interesting performances on the bench. We'll get into this, Adam. CeeDee Lamb.
Yeah.
We'll talk about that here as we get into the questions. Ramondre Stevenson continues to just say, hey, I'm the guy here in New England. I don't care about no rookie behind me. 15 fantasy points, 18 for 88. Like, that's a pretty efficient day for a kind of a plodding veteran. 4.89 yards per carry, his second highest on the season. Very impressive on the bench. And then we should throw a shout out. We're not going to talk about him too much here, but Justin Herbert, in sort of a come from behind effort, did have 27 fantasy points. It was his best game of the since week 1. He had been struggling a little bit lately.
55,
kind of had a little bit of the
55
pass attempts. Quite a bit. Game script certainly helped there. So Adam, a couple options to choose from, but who's your beast in week number 7?
So my beast is actually going to be Chris Olave. What an interesting kind of, who would have thought that Chris Olave would be the number 12 wide receiver through 7 weeks? Now, obviously, this big week really propels him forward, but it seems like this offense is getting a little, Spencer Rattler is showing that he can support, maybe one pass catcher in this offense. That looks like it's going to be Chris Olave. 7 targets, 5 catches, 98 yards, his season high, and 2 touchdowns, also his season high as well. So, he's really the only guy there. Alvin Kamara's kind of taking a back seat, doesn't really catch the ball anymore. Spencer Rattler can get him the ball, so Chris Olave, my beast for week 7.
Yeah, I'm just thinking a little bit. I think he was certainly underrated a little bit this year.
I liked
coming
him.
into the I did too. I just didn't like the quarterback situation for New Orleans. I don't love it. I think Rattler has been better than a lot of people have anticipated. Remember, it was very late in training camp. We still didn't know who the starter was going to be for New Orleans, but we know the talent is there. Last year, I just went back and looked at our draft last year, Adam. He was the last pick of round 2. So,
I know,
it's a guy
I took him.
That's right. Yeah, exactly. You had McCaffrey and Olave. So
that worked out.
Totally agree with you, and glad you could give him a shout out here in week number 7. Okay, how about the bust for this week?
I mean, I want to do something different. Can I do something different? Can I just put the bust at CeeDee Lamb on the bench?
Yeah, well, we'll get into that. Sure.
We're just going to lead into it. But
talk about it.
Okay, so first round pick, 6th pick, and you don't start your 6th pick? Now, it didn't really matter in this one.
It didn't matter.
But that is the most head-scratching thing I think I've ever seen in fantasy football, where your first-round draft pick is actually starting, not hindered. I don't think there was anything saying that he was going to be limited, and sitting him on the bench. That's kind of crazy, but who am I to say? She's 5-2, so yeah, I'm going to put it as CD Lamb for not starting your first round pick and still getting the win somehow.
All right. Well, I see you're starting CD Lamb, and I raise you starting Puka Nacua on the other side here.
Yeah.
We'll get into Josh's team, but like, what's the deal there? Yeah, he's got some play. He didn't have a receiver. He didn't really have another receiver to play, but you could have jogged this lineup a little
Jennings
bit.
in there, and then put a running back.
You could have put any one of these guys, David Njoku, Josh Palmer, in the IR slot and pick somebody. There's nobody in the IR slot. So to me, Josh's mistake here is way worse than Sarah's mistake. Like you said, it didn't hurt her. Josh, when I saw that, I'm like, is there some collusion going on here in the Keys household? I'm just saying, like that's what I thought. So I don't know. Anyway.
Oh God, the podcast world is going to crumble with the collusion accusations. Go ahead with your big question for Sarah.
All right. Well, like you said, it didn't matter.
No.
She won by a lot here, but it is interesting. There's a lot of guys for, I think there's 5 or 6 guys here for like 4 or 5 slots. So next week's matchups, let's see if we can look at them and see if we can set this lineup for Sarah. I think you're choosing between Rachaad White, Jordan Mason, assuming that let's assume for a second that Aaron Jones does not return this week.
Okay.
Jordan Mason, Chris Olave, Keenan Allen, CeeDee Lamb, and George Pickens. So let's see if we can digest this a little bit here. Rachaad White has the Saints. Okay, coming off of a 6-point performance, 10 carries, not impressive against Detroit the other night. Let's talk about the other. So Jordan Mason, we said 15 for 57 and a touchdown this week. The Minnesota Vikings have the Chargers in week number 8. Then we've got the wide receivers. You've got Pickens and Lamb facing the Denver Broncos in week 8. Tough matchup there. You've got Keenan Allen for the Chargers facing the Vikings. And you've got Chris Olave, who he's hard to sit. He's facing Tampa Bay. So I think she needs to sit one of these next week. So is there an obvious choice to sit?
I don't think it's obvious, but I think you have to get CeeDee Lamb back in. I don't care. You draft him in the first round, he's matchup proof. You got to. I mean, that's just is what it is. Unless you want to do some 40 chess thing. I think you got to sit Rachaad White. Against New Orleans. It's just not like a total bank field, like only 10 attempts here. Against New Orleans, you should be up, but this game might be a little closer than what people are thinking. I don't know what Bucky Irving's status is. Still kind of injured, but, if Aaron Jones is back, you're not starting Jordan Mason. You have to see how that kind of fans out before, but as of right now, I think it's Rachaad White. And then you're throwing Jordan Mason in that second spot and starting CeeDee Lamb.
So sitting White. Yeah, the only thing that's interesting there to me is Rachaad White is going to be facing a New Orleans defense that just let DeAndre Swift and Kyle Monangai, the rookie, run roughshod over them. Rachaad White, aside from this week against a very good Lions defense, had great performances against a great Seattle defense, 21 points against them in week 5 and 16 points in week 6. So it's tough. It's close. I think I would agree with you that I'm probably benching one of those two running backs in White or Mason, but it's close. I don't know that there's necessarily a wrong option right now.
And who are we to say anything?
Exactly. No, totally. I agree. All right. Well, let's go now. Continue criticizing the other owner here, Josh, as the loser in this one. 103.84, 4-3, number 5 in the standings. Kind of got second week in a row that Hurts reaches the 20-point mark.
Yeah.
He's actually been remarkably consistent, basically between 19 and 24 points each of the last 4 weeks. So his target or his pass attempts are a little bit all over the map, but at the end of the day, his fantasy production has been pretty consistently mediocre to good, maybe for Hurts. Bad for Hurts, but generally as a fantasy starter, still number 3. He hasn't had his bye yet, but number 3 at the quarterback position. Josh Jacobs, a guy who like almost didn't start because he was hurt and ill and had a calf injury and all kinds of stuff. He ends up playing 18 fantasy points. Certainly wouldn't know otherwise. He had 13 carries, got into the end zone twice. We mentioned Puka Nacua did not play in this one, but was in the starting lineup for Josh. The two Kansas City Chiefs, who we'll get into a little bit more, Worthy and Smith-Schuster, both end up getting the start, 6 points, 5 points respectively. And then Jake Ferguson, a guy that we keep talking about. CeeDee Lamb's back. George Pickens is playing. Javonte Williams is still amazing. And somehow all of these guys are like incredibly productive.
Yeah.
In fact, I think I saw something the other day that was the top 10 touchdown scorers in the NFL this year. And Pickens, Ferguson, and Javonte Williams are all in the top 10. What's noticeably missing from that? The fact that CeeDee Lamb isn't in there.
Yeah,
that you've got 3 Cowboys in the top 10 in touchdowns, and none of them, because of injury, are CeeDee Lamb. So just goes to show you how incredibly efficient and productive that Cowboys offense is this year. And nobody knows better than you do as the manager with Dak Prescott.
Yeah.
But anyway, I digress. It was a great game for Ferguson, 18 fantasy points, got into the end zone twice, only 29 yards, but 2 touchdowns. Very impressive there. And then let's give a shout out to the Chiefs defense. I started them in another league. They were the obvious streaming defense this
95
week. Josh recognized that. Yeah, just sack, a fumble, 95 yards allowed to the hapless Raiders offense. So a lot of players hurt on the bench for Josh, so not much else to talk about. So who'd you like here in week 7?
So I think it has to be Jake Ferguson. I mean, now the number 1 overall tight end. He might have been the number 1 overall tight end anyway. But the interesting point that you kind of brought up is CeeDee Lamb comes back. He still doesn't miss a beat. 7 targets in this one. That's a lot of targets, even with CeeDee Lamb coming back. Dallas might be the best offense in the NFL. Just with how good the running game has been, Dak has looked at an MVP level, it appears. You also have CeeDee Lamb, George Pickens, and Jake Ferguson, who now has, 6 touchdowns on the season. Number 1 tight end picked in the 12th round. Pretty good. So he is my beast for week 7, and I'm extremely high on him going forward.
I would agree with you. Maybe a few tougher matchups coming up for Ferguson, but you're starting him until you see otherwise from him. So he's a lock, a roster lock at this point.
Yep.
Okay, how about the bust?
That's going to be Alvin Kamara. It's just as an Alvin, I have to say, as an Alvin Kamara owner in another league, it's just so bad. He hasn't gone over 4 yards per carry in 3 straight weeks. He's now at 8 attempts, 10 attempts, 11 attempts. They're always behind, so he's not really getting much work in the passing game. Not as much as he did in seasons past. It just might be the end. I mean, you're talking about that age 30 mark for running backs where they fall off a cliff. He might be there. Just really bad. You would think that he'd be the focal point of this offense with Spencer Rattler being the quarterback. It does not appear that way. Kendry Miller has been a little bit more involved than what I even thought. So maybe it becomes a true, timeshare. I'm not really sure. But Alvin Kamara is my bust, and he's one of my most disappointing players thus far in fantasy football.
Kendry Miller has been good, but unfortunately did suffer a torn anterior cruciate ligament. I don't know if I said that correctly. He will miss the rest of the season. So if there is a sign for optimism for Kamara, it is the guy that was stealing some touches from him, is now gone for the season. I'm not sure the depth chart behind Kendre Miller there. If there's another guy that's going to get some run, probably, but they may be relying on Kamara a little bit more in the coming weeks. He did play his second highest snap percentage on the year due to that Kendre Miller injury.
Yeah.
Okay, well, Josh ended up starting 2 Kansas City Chiefs wide receivers. Neither of them, unfortunately for Josh, were named Rashee Rice. Juju Smith-Schuster was subbed in for Jacoby Myers, who missed this game and contributed just 5 points. So we know that Josh knows how to use the substitution feature because he did that with Smith-Schuster. Xavier Worthy didn't do much better. He had just 6.3 fantasy points on a very lean 11% target share.
Yeah.
With Rashee Rice back from suspension, clearly he has not missed a beat. How comfortable are you starting either one of these guys, especially Xavier Worthy, moving forward?
So I think the Juju Smith-Schuster experiment's over. With Hollywood Brown, with Rashee Rice, with Xavier Worthy, with Travis Kelce, you're starting all of those people, and they're getting the ball way more than Juju Smith-Schuster is. I think that he got 3 targets in this one just because they were up 31-0. I think that's when the backups probably started to come in. Xavier Worthy, he kind of seems like a Jameson Williams type player now to me, where it's like you never know when you're going to be able to start him. You have Rashee Rice, which is kind of comparison to Amon-Ra St. Brown. Then Jameson Williams and Xavier Worthy are kind of those home run hitters that you're going to get, a 3-point game, you're going to get a 28-point game. You just don't know when it's coming. So both those players I don't really feel comfortable starting, but definitely a little more high on Xavier Worthy than Juju Smith-Schuster.
All right, well, let's move on to the third matchup here.
Yeah.
It is Charlie and the Reisterstown Rockets. I didn't hesitate there at all. But the New York, the Reisterstown Rockets are. I was jumping right to my question. I threw myself off. We're going to be talking about the New York Jets. That's a sneak hint, foreshadowing about who we're going to be talking about in the big question. So he can't be your bust, Adam. You can't talk about that guy as your bust.
Okay.
But anyway, Charlie, 4-3. 139 points this week, beating Scott's Westminster Wrecking Crew 124-82. So about a 15-point victory for Charlie. He advances to 4-3 as the number 6 seed, and Scott falls outside of the playoff window to the number 8 seed at 3-4. You said last week that this was going to be a pretty evenly matched battle. Indeed, it was for sure. Charlie gets the nice spot start out of Matt Stafford, continuing to play in place of Lamar Jackson. And this is these are the kind of pickups. Stafford is the kind of quarterback. He's been on a nice run lately that you look back and you say, man, that ended up being a really good decision for Charlie to get Stafford and give him a couple spot starts here, because he has been phenomenal actually this season. For a guy that doesn't run, to be a top 10 quarterback at his age is pretty impressive. 27 fantasy points on 5 touchdowns this week.
Leads the NFL in passing touchdowns.
Very impressive indeed. Also very impressive were Cam Scattaboo with 16 fantasy points, continuing to bulldoze defenders all over the field, and Devontae Smith with a very nice game. The rare doubly good performance for the 2 Eagles wide receivers. He outperforms A.J. Brown with 28 fantasy points. Kind of on the weaker side here, Nico Collins gets banged up in this game. Just 4 for 10, 27 yards. Maybe we'll talk about him. I'm not sure, but he's the number 31 receiver, despite playing in all of his team's 6 games so far. Kind of a maybe the bust of the first round potentially. And then elsewhere on this roster gets a great performance in a great matchup for the Patriots, wrecking the Tennessee Titans for 21 fantasy points. They had 5 sacks, a fumble, and a touchdown in this game. We mentioned Lamar Jackson still on the bench here. Zay Flowers was on bye. Deebo Samuel surprisingly missed this game. That was another kind of head scratcher. We thought he was going to play. He, in fact, did not. But nice win for Charlie to move to 4-3. And had some nice performances, Adam, here. So who do you want to talk about?
So, I mean, it has to be Matthew Stafford. I mean, filling in very nicely, as you mentioned, for Lamar Jackson. Now has 3 25 or more point games this season. Leads the NFL in touchdowns. Very efficient day. I mean, only 183 yards, but 5 touchdowns on the day against Jacksonville. Again, you say he doesn't run the ball. It doesn't really matter. He is a very, very nice fill-in as a quarterback 2 for a team with an injured quarterback. So Matthew Stafford, it's like circa '07 again, if he played in '07. Yes, he did play in '07. Circa '07 with the Lions. He's leading the NFL in touchdowns. He is my beast for week 7.
Man, '07, we were in high school still.
Mm-hmm.
No, 2009 it looks like, right? No?
No, he was definitely in the NFL before Joe Flacco. Yeah, he has 16 years. Was he
Really?
in the NFL before Flacco? Flacco was
2009. He came in the league in 2009.
Oh, okay.
Stafford.
2009, circa 2009.
Still, I mean, hey, we were freshmen in college. That's pretty impressive longevity for a really good quarterback who I think, frankly, has gotten better with age and certainly has gotten better since he went to the Rams. By the way, Stafford, last 4 games, 12 touchdowns, 0 interceptions.
Wow.
Very impressive for Stafford indeed. Okay, pick somebody here that didn't have such a great week and is your bust that can't be Breece Hall.
Yeah, so it's Nico Collins. It's like the talent is there. He can just like never put it together. It's very weird. At least these past couple years, he had that big year in 2023 where he was 9th overall. Last year, 22, dealt with some injuries. Now this year, 31. It's like he has all the attributes. He has the speed. He has the height. He has the catching ability, the playmaking ability. It's always something. It's always an injury, or C.J. Stroud can't get him the ball, or the offense is weird. The offense is run first. It's not run first this year. It's just all weird. He's my bust, and he's just been like kind of disappointing. And now he has a concussion Monday night game, so it's going to be hard for him to come back this week against San Francisco. So you might lose him a week, but Nico Collins, my bust for week 7.
All right, I'm going to use this opportunity to go on my rant.
Okay.
I'm gonna not do it in our match. I'm just going to do my Texans suck rant. I've been telling you this.
Well, he has a lot of Texans, so
perfect. They suck. C.J. Stroud is terrible. Their head coach is like leading these guys just on a straight hill downwards. They are, I've said it before, they are what the Dolphins, they are 1 year behind the Dolphins. What the Dolphins are this year, if the Texans, frankly, they might already be there. But next year will be even worse, I think. I don't know. I mean, this is a team that we watched in person, live in person, destroy the Ravens. It shows you how bad we are, frankly. Last night, 2 nights ago, when did they play? Last night against Seattle, Houston. C.J. Stroud was 19 for 43. Okay, 19. Now I get Seattle has a good defense.
No, he was 23 for 49.
Okay, so I must have written that down.
That's still bad.
Awful. That's really bad. That's like that's less than 50%. That's like So I asked ChatGPT. I said, how bad of a completion percentage is this? Because it seemed awful. Like at the time, again, 19 for 43. I'm like, I've never seen anything that bad. That's like so. That was a 44% completion percentage. The league average is 64 to 67. An elite game, according to ChatGPT, is 70%. Good game, 65 to 69. Average game, 60 to 64. Poor, 50 to 59. Below 50, very poor. C.J. Stroud is a very poor quarterback.
Yeah.
This team is awful, and I have no faith that they are going to sustain Nico Collins as anything close to a wide receiver 1 for the rest of this. I have no confidence in it at all. Maybe they'll prove me wrong, but I just...
Imagine if Nico Collins was on any other team. like any other team, I feel like he'd be in a better situation than he is with Houston. Like,
which is crazy because this is a team that suddenly kind of lacks for wide receiver talent. A couple of years ago, they had more,
yeah,
right? When they had Diggs and they had Tank Dell, we were like, man, this is a like so many options. Just like
right.
we said about the Dolphins a few years ago. Now he's got the shot. He's got the targets. He had 10 targets. CJ Stroud could only complete 4 of them. So it's frustrating.
Yeah, they're bad. They're bad. What's your question?
Frustrating.
Get it back together.
The New York Jets,
Yeah,
where we started.
There you go.
Full circle. They're now 0-7.
Yeah.
Some speculation that Breece Hall may be one of the more likely players to be traded during the season before the trade deadline.
Yeah.
Certainly, he's the biggest name that I've heard, Adam, being mentioned as a trade candidate. He's RB21, but he's probably closer to 25 or 26 because the Jets have not had their bye yet. So some teams have had their bye. So, he should be better, but he's not. So he's had 4 really inefficient games. Like we're talking less than 3.5 yards a carry. And he's had 3 games that are more than 5.5 yards per carry. So he's literally hit or miss. He's boom or bust. So what could you reasonably expect from Hall moving forward? And should Charlie be hoping that he does get dealt to another team?
The only thing I'm saying about players moving is be careful what you wish for.
100%.
Just talking about the Texans. I mean, could he go there? I don't know if they're going to be trading to make any playoff pushes. I just don't really see a destination where you can go. New England, but are they going to trade within division? I'm trying to run down maybe the Commanders. That would probably be the best scenario for him to go to the Commanders, but they kind of seem like they like what they have. He would be the dominant force, but you got to be careful because he could go to the Chiefs, which would be so annoying. But you just got to be careful because if there's a guy there that they like as well, and they're going to do a 1-2 punch, now you've lost everything that is actually good about Breece Hall, him having 100% of the rushing opportunities with his team. So I'm not on the bandwagon saying that just because he's moving, it's a positive for him. It just depends on where he goes, if he does go anywhere.
Yeah, for sure. It'll be interesting to see, his upcoming matchups here. I mean, talk about a guy. There's probably not a guy in the NFL that's hurt worse more than game script than Breece Hall.
Yeah.
Has 4 games of less than 15 carries, 5 games of 6 games, 5 games, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 games of less than 15 carries. So, like you said, he has the ability, he has the potential, but they're game scripted out of these games. Have the Bengals next week. We'll see how that goes. But after the bye in week 9, it's Cleveland and New England. So,
Yeah.
I don't know. We'll see. Baltimore beyond that. Well, that could be. Who knows?
Start your
at
studs.
this point. All right. Well, let's move over to the losing side here. By the way, Charlie, we're very negative on Charlie's team, but he wins this game. So sorry, Charlie. There.
He took the Houston bullet for everybody.
You would have thought he would have been, yeah. So 4-3, nothing to shake your head about. At 3-4, Scott's Westminster Wrecking Crew lose this game. We're going to get into the quarterback situation here, Adam. But in the meantime, let's just talk about the fact that Quinshon Judkins had 25 carries and 3 touchdowns. The fact that Jamar Chase and Flacco seem like they've been throwing the football. That Flacco's been throwing the football to him since I don't know, kindergarten. I mean, those guys had a connection.
Flacco's probably old enough to be his dad, so
100%. But you just could not imagine that they would have this type of chemistry. 16 for 23.
Yeah, it's crazy.
I believe 16 catches for Chase. I think ties the franchise record or set the record. 23 receptions.
23.
I don't know the last time
that's Puka numbers.
That's crazy.
That's Cooper Kupp 3 years ago numbers. 23 targets.
Totally, 100%. Vlad McConkey, 15 targets. Like
Yeah,
some of these receivers that we've been talking about had really nice games here.
yeah,
And the Browns, you lose this game, but hey, the Browns, man, killed it against the. We've talked a lot about defenses here. I've
yeah,
mentioned them. I think we should talk about. I mean, the Browns defense has been surprisingly good this season. They're the number 10 defense, taking advantage of good matchups. Have a lot of good matchups on the schedule coming up. A string of really good matchups. So that certainly
yeah,
will help. The bench, the only guy we need to really talk about, I think, is Chuba Hubbard.
yeah.
In the what's going to happen that Hubbard's back, we've got Rico Dowdle. Coach Canales was a little bit dodgy about who was going to get the work. He kind of said, yeah, we sort of have a guy in mind that's going to have the edge. But at the end of the day, they basically split. But Dowdle was way more efficient on
Mhm.
about the same number of carries. Hubbard struggled here at less than 3 yards per carry, almost 2 yards per carry for Hubbard. So, Adam, unless you want to comment on Hubbard, because that's kind of an important thing, maybe you want to comment there and then you can proceed to give me your beast.
Yeah, so the Hubbard kind of Rico Dowdle split was kind of interesting. You also have to remember that he's coming off injury, so maybe they're trying to, kind of wade him back in. I'm not really sure. 17 carries for Rico Dowdle, though, 79 yards. It was a great line for him. Now, running back number 11. On the flip side, Chuba Hubbard, 14 carries, 31. So definitely outworked by Rico Dowdle in this one. Looks like the better running back right now. I just feel like Canales cannot keep him off the field, and I just feel like now Hubbard's going to take a back seat going forward. So I think Rico Dowdle has this job, and it's his job to lose right now.
I would agree there. Okay, so in happier news, let's find a player that we liked this week.
Yeah, I mean, it's Jamar Chase. Now 3 straight games, 26, 20, 30 points. Really return on investment, ROI, if you will, on, drafting him the number one overall pick. 23 targets is insane. And like you mentioned, Joe Flacco and him looked like that they played 10 years together. It was crazy. Flacco flinging the ball around, Jamar Chase making toe-tapping catches on the sidelines, catching touchdowns. 161 yards is second season or second highest, other than Jacksonville in week 2. You're starting him going forward without any hesitation. I think he's out of the worst, out of the woods here from like week 3, week 4. Joe Flacco can get him the ball. He's a professional quarterback in a way that Jake Browning was not. So you had to feel very comfortable now. Jamar Chase, my beast for week 7.
Yeah, signs pointing up with Flacco at quarterback. Jake Browning started the first 4 games of the season for the Browns, had 757 yards. Flacco has 561 yards in just 2 games for the Browns, so certainly
Crazy.
an improvement there at the quarterback position.
Yep.
Okay, how about let's find a bust here.
Yeah, so that's going to be Brian Thomas. I think he did leave this one early, I believe. This was the very early game, so I actually didn't watch this one. But 7 targets, now he's going backwards. It's, you saw that kind of progression 6, 8, 10, 19. You're like, okay, we're back. And then it just kind of goes back downhill in a game that they were getting blown out in. So he definitely had the opportunities to score a lot more than what he did. Now, wide receiver number 32. Again, drafting him in the 3rd round, he's been a disappointment. Now goes on bye, so you're not even going to have him next week. He is my bust for week 7.
Yeah, I also don't know. He did exit the game with a right shoulder injury,
Okay.
so he did leave. So that may have contributed, but also the fact that he was upstaged a little bit in the
Well,
passing game here by the rookie, the guy we've been talking about quite a bit. Certainly performed, had his breakout performance. Why can't I think of his name?
Travis Hunter.
Travis Hunter, the two-way player, of course, outperformed Brian Thomas in this one. And hey, I don't know that this offense can support 2 good to elite wide receivers, so you might have
Can't
a
even
little
support
bit of this.
one running back. So,
Well, that's certainly true. Let alone 2. That's why Tootin is a free agent. Anyway, Okay, where were we? Yeah, so the talking point that we talked a little bit about last week for Scott
Yeah.
is that if he could get some consistency out of his four stud wide receivers,
Yeah.
that's great. But were there too many questions across the rest of his roster? And I think after week 7, I think the answer has to be yes, and particularly right now at the quarterback position.
Mm-hmm.
Bryce Young has a brand new ankle injury that seems like he's going to miss some time. He's got lingering issues to Kyler Murray, who did not play this game, J.J. McCarthy, who's been out for several weeks. Those are the three quarterbacks that Scott is currently rostering. So, factoring in the fact that even if Kyler gets healthy, he's on bye next week,
Yep.
it's very possible that Scott doesn't have a QB to start. So, let's just take a quick peek maybe at the waiver wire and see
Yeah.
who's available. If Scott may have to put in a hefty. He needs a win, right? He's 3-4. He's on the bubble. He needs a win. Who are you turning to
Guess
if you're
who is there?
Joe
Joe
Flacco?
Flacco against the Jets.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
I mean, out of all those options, you have Aaron Rodgers against Green Bay, a revenge game, but that's really the only other one. Um, you have Michael Penix, you have Tua. You never feel good about that. Wentz, if you want to go that route against the Chargers, but as crazy enough as to say, I think it's Joe Flacco right now.
Don't forget about the other veteran quarterback available here, Adam, the Red Rocket, Andy
It's
Dalton for the
true.
Panthers. Sneaky play there, but certainly I would agree with you. Flacco is the obvious. It'll be interesting to see a lot of teams on bye.
Yeah.
Couple injuries. Jaden Daniels, for one, we'll talk about with Tom. Some teams needing quarterbacks this week, so it'll be interesting to see how much a guy like Joe Flacco goes for in the Fab budget this week. Okay,
Great.
let's move on to Brian versus Mike. The Timonium Neon Tubes
There you go.
get the victory here. Ring the bell. Get the victory here over Mike's Columbia Clown College. Impressive performance,
Yeah.
132.26 points. Mike just 104.92. The Neon Tubes advanced to 5-2. They're the number 3 team in the standings behind Dustin and Sarah. Mike's team drops a third straight game, now the number 4 seed. So still, okay, but won the first 4, dropped the last 3. It's been a cold streak prolonged here for Mike. The big thing to note here is the 39 points for Bo
Yeah.
Nix, all of them basically in the fourth quarter. What a wild game that
That
was.
was crazy.
I don't know, Adam, if you're going to talk about McBride or Nix, but that would be a fun game to talk a little bit about here as we move into this a little bit more. But other than that performance and the 24 points for Trey McBride, the rest of the roster here was pretty
Talk about
down,
the
right?
defense. The defense, though.
The defense was the third leading scorer, third leading scorer. The Bears defense, 3 interceptions. Nice day against the Saints. Rattler did, find Olave, but also found the defenders a couple times in that game. On the bench, not too much going on. Daniel Jones had a decent day here, 22 fantasy points. Isaiah Pacheco got back into the mix. Interesting name to note. 15 carries, 57 yards, and a touchdown. I believe I am correct. It was his first rushing touchdown of the year in week 7. So, okay. But maybe he's startable potentially with the 15 carries is certainly fantasy worthy.
15 carries when you're winning 31-0 is kind of insane, though. Insanely low.
I suppose that's true. Let's check what the snap percentage was like with his backfield mates there. It was 56% of snaps for Pacheco, 35% for the rookie Brashard Smith, and 19% for Kareem Hunt. So, yeah, Brashard Smith definitely took some work away from Pacheco this week.
Yeah.
All right, so Brian's starting lineup here. Like I said, I'm guessing it's Nix or McBride. If you want to talk about them both, feel free.
Yeah, so the beast has to be Nix. I mean, very, crazy monster game. Like you said, most of this coming in the fourth quarter. Giants had a 99.6% chance of winning this game. Denver comes all the way back in Raven-esque fashion. The Giants, below this one with a late lead. What I like to see, highest rushing total of the season. Also 2 rushing touchdowns as well. Now quarterback number 6. So starting to get moving here, starting to see what he looked like last year. And look who he has in week 8. Dallas, who you can move the ball on. I think that he is a must start next week, Bo Nix. But for week 7, he is my beast.
Yeah, a little bit of Stafford light here for the last 4 games. We talked about the 12-0 touchdown to interception rate over the last 4 games for Stafford. Hey, Bo Nix, 8 touchdowns, total touchdowns, and 1 interception over the last 4 weeks. So not quite as good as Stafford, but hey, a young player like this that has 3 straight games with no interceptions, nothing to overlook there for Bo Nix. So 50 passing attempts, he's been a little bit all over the map when it comes to passing attempts this year, but 50 is by far his season high. Probably not going to see too much of that, but does have the Cowboys next week.
Yep.
All right. Actually, plenty of options to choose from. We're not going to use the injured player here, but is there somebody else that you want to talk about for a bust?
Yeah, Roma Dunze. 6 targets in this one, only 2 catches. His tied for his season low. 31 yards is his season low. Just kind of an odd game, and now he's had 2 straight games of 4 points now. So, you had 4 straight of double-digit points, and now he's a little bit lower. It's kind of what's going on here. It's the Bears trying to find their identity. Are they a run first? Are they going to let Caleb sling the ball around? I'm not sure they're really sure what they want to do with that. DJ Moore always gets 5 or 6 catches for 58 yards, it seems like, so that's going to be his workload. It's just kind of disappointing. You were hoping that Roma Dunze would look more like Jackson Smith and Jigba of this year, being that number 1 option, getting 100 yards every single week. At least reached 100 yards in 1 of the weeks thus far, so he is my bust for week 7.
Yeah, I think you nailed it, Adam, there. You talked about how the Bears may actually be leaning more on the run lately. We talked about Swift. We talked about Monangai. Both players had great games, but also the fact that the Bears' defense may not be so bad.
Yeah.
And what do teams with good defenses like to do? They like to slow the game down, pound the ball, control the clock. The Bears, for what it's worth, their defense, aside from the -7 against the Lions in week 2, they've had double-digit defensive performances in fantasy every other week except for that. So they're number 12 in fantasy. A big part of that, the fact that they aren't higher, is because they did have a -7 in week 2. So I think you're right on it. You're on the track there in terms of the Bears becoming more of a rushing team and a defensive team than a passing team.
But guess what? You're starting him next week. I can guarantee you that. You're starting all your players against the Ravens. You're starting them. Until proven otherwise. Until Marlon Humphrey stops podcasting and actually gets in the film room.
Ooh, shots fired.
Yeah.
Can't disagree with that at all. Okay, well, so the Neon Tubes won pretty easily this week, as we mentioned, but they did suffer a big loss. We buried the lead a little bit, but Mike Evans, the veteran wide receiver who you have some history with, I believe, returned from a hamstring injury, but only to suffer a broken collarbone. Gruesome landed very awkwardly on the turf being tackled, and is expected to miss the better part of the season, if not the rest of the season. At least through the fantasy regular season, which is tough news for Brian. So lay it out for me. How will this loss hurt Brian's Neon Tubes down the stretch?
Yeah, I mean, it's not good. He's hold on one second. He is a really good player, perennial player. And just to mention, right, He's been in the league now 11 years. 10 of those years, he's gone over 1,000 yards. That will end this year. So this will be the first time that he has not gone over 1,000 yards in a season. I mean, what a remarkable, run of 10 years for Mike Evans. Now back to the fantasy football side. Obviously, it hurts, especially with, Quentin Johnson. 6 targets, 2 catches. He kind of bails himself out here with the touchdown. We talked about Roma Dunze. Are the opportunities going to start drying up for Roma Dunze just because they're coming a run-first team? So it's, the holes are starting to show up now with this squad. Vidal didn't have a good one in this game either. Justin Jefferson, having Carson Wentz. You probably want to keep Carson Wentz if you're a Justin Jefferson owner more than J.J. McCarthy. But, the holes are showing. He's 5-2, but there's a lot of questions now.
Absolutely. Questions for sure there.
Yeah.
Let's move over to the losing side for this matchup. The Columbia Clown College get the loss. Now number 4 in the standings and number 4 in points for Mike's team. And really disappointing here except for 3 players. It was Jahmyr Gibbs with 35 points, Travis Hunter with 20 points, and Javonte Williams continuing his excellent season with 18 points. Other than that, boy, it was brutal, starting with a goose egg for Jamison Williams after a lot of us kind of were looking at his last week with 7 targets, 15 fantasy points. Hey, this is his breakout game. Well, fooled you. He's now got a 0 in week 7 before going into a bye next week in week 8.
Yeah.
Just continued production problems for Mike's team. J.K. Dobbins, a little bit touchdown dependent here. He's getting the work, 14 carries for 81 yards, but doesn't catch a ton of passes, 8.5 fantasy points this week. Not great. This is not a guy who's adding anything in the passing game, and so his upside is always limited.
Yeah.
It doesn't help that you get 2 points out of Blake Grupe. You get -2 points out of the Chargers. Starting the Chargers against Indianapolis, bold move there. I think I probably would have taken a look at free agent
Anybody
defenses
else?
to stream. Probably. I mean, the Colts are one of these just super efficient offenses right now. They're going to be a scary playoff team, I think. I think we'll get into some of the injuries here, perhaps, or at least mention them. But Pearsall, Godwin, Wilson, Bowers, all missing this one. So short-handed for Mike. He gets the short end of the stick this week. But, you have 3 choices for your beast, Adam. So who is it going to be?
So it's going to be Jahmyr Gibbs. What a performance. 17 carries, 136, 8 yards per carry, 2 touchdowns. And then, just to throw on top of that, it catches the ball for 82 yards as well. Really, if it wasn't for Bijan, you'd have to say that he's probably the most dynamic running back in the NFL. 218 total yards in this one. On only 56% snap carry. So it's like they're keeping him fresh, but when he's on the field, they're getting him the ball. An amazing player. He's on bye next week, but, just everything you really wanted out of that 5th pick in the first round. He is my beast for week 7. Nothing
to add there. How about a bust for this team in week 7?
Yeah, so I'm going to stay with the Lions. It's going to be Jamison Williams, and I might go on a little tirade here. Why? Why did they sign him to an extension? Why? Why? And it wasn't cheap. It wasn't a cheap extension. It just seems so odd to me that 6'1", 182, runs a 4.3, 4.4, gets down the field, has good hands, and they just decide just not to use him one day. And I just don't get it. And so he scores 0 points here, 2 targets, not even a season low, but doesn't get any catches. That is his season low. Just so frustrating. I was so wrong on Jamison Williams. I kept him in another league. He's just been awful. I was like, they signed him. He's going to be an integral part of this offense. Hasn't worked out. Wide receiver 42. He is my bust for week 7.
Yeah, how could he not be just completely disappointing again? I mean,
Yeah.
everyone thought last week, hey, this is it's now Jamison Williams. He's the guy. Monroe St. Brown is certainly an offense that they can sustain. You'd think two wide receivers,
Yeah.
two pretty good receivers, but just not happening on a consistent basis at all for JMO here. All right, well, the injury to Mike Evans wasn't the only injury storyline in this matchup between Brian and Mike. It was Mike's Clown College that came into this one super banged up,
Yeah.
contributing to their third straight loss. Tight end Brock Bowers, wide receivers Garrett Wilson, Chris Godwin, Ricky Pearsall. All of these guys were on the shelf in week 7. 3 of these guys have bye weeks coming up in the next 2 weeks. So speaking of byes, healthy wide receivers Travis Hunter and Jameson Williams are both on bye next week as
Yeah.
well. So really an inopportune time for Mike, having lost 3 straight. He's got guys that are injured that have byes coming up, so they're probably going to get held out through the bye for a couple of these guys. You've got 2 healthy guys that have byes next week. So is it going to get worse for Mike before it gets better?
I think it all kind of depends on Ricky Pearsall, weirdly enough, and when Brock Bowers comes back, because I feel like they really like him there. And he's, a very talented player. You can't start JMO, and he has a problem. It's a very unique problem. He has 4 running backs that are startable. You can only start 3, so it's kind of it's rough there. He doesn't have 3 starting wide receivers, especially with the bye weeks coming up. But he's. If I was Mike, I'm really reading this news about Garrett Wilson and saying he's hopeful to play Week 8. I hope so, because even if it is Tyrod Taylor there for the Jets, he's still usable there. So definitely concerning. Can he weather it? Probably. I mean, Jahmyr Gibbs, Baker Mayfield, Williams as well. Dallas Goedert's also been very good this season. Can he weather it? Probably. But it will be a struggle, and you might see some of these 100, 104-point games.
That's a very good point. He's sort of on the borderline here. He's already traded one running back this season, Trey Benson, to Jake's team. You're right. I mean, he does have a plethora of running backs that you can start. Like you said, one that you can't start. So do you go try to plug some of these holes that you have with injury and bye weeks at the wide receiver position? I'm with you. I think you probably just try to weather the storm as best you can.
Yeah.
It's still a talented team that, once healthy, I think probably has a solid second half of the fantasy season.
Yeah.
Okay, second to last matchup. Moving over to Dustin's team here. Continues his dominance in the Beltway Wars Invitational. He is now 6-1, the number 1 team in the league, with a 128-point performance over Tom's Finksburg Kinks at 105.04. So not a huge point total here. Second lowest among the winning teams this week for Dustin, but it doesn't matter. Does get the victory. And does it with 3 touchdowns from Devontae Adams, taking advantage of Puka Nacua missing this game. He gets a lot from Bijan Robinson with 18 fantasy points, but not as much from Drake London. Just 4 for 10 in this game, kind of an inefficient down game for London. 4 for 10, really inefficient. Not a good connection this week with Penix. And then continues to get solid performance out of a guy who we're going to talk about with the question, and that is rookie tight end Tyler Warren. He has another great game, almost 15 fantasy points here. So gets the job done here. Drake May, steady as she goes. Dustin's team advances to 6-1. And Adam, who do you want to talk about as the beast for Dustin this week?
Well, I think it's Rashid Rice. Coming back from suspension, just scores a cool 19 points. 2 touchdowns, 10 targets, 7 catches. Just fits right in that offense. Holmes looks for him, scores 19. Scary time. Dustin's team is scary. Washington, Buffalo, then a bye. Those are 2+ matchups. I can see this Buffalo game going 45-42. Rashid Rice catching a couple touchdowns. So, first week, so far so good for Rashid Rice. and he is my beast for week 7.
Yeah, by the way, Rashee Rice does this with just 41% of the snaps.
Well,
Let me read you.
that's the score you would believe.
Right. And let me just tell you here. I mean, look, the Chiefs, Juju Smith-Schuster, 36% of snaps. Marquise Brown, 33% of snaps. Tyquan Thornton, 33% of snaps. Xavier Worthy, 59% of the snaps. He led the team by a lot. Jalen Royals, 20% of snaps. Nico Remigio, I don't even know who the hell that is, but got 15% of the snaps. Rashee Rice, 41% of the snaps. So clearly, I mean, they're just going spread offense, spread wideouts all
Yeah.
over the field. Rashee Rice, he did this on 41% of snaps. What can he do if that number ticks up to 60 or 70%? Very,
Jamar
very
Chase like
impressive.
numbers could be.
100%.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
crazy.
What did he do? It's worth looking into. So when he was healthy last year, I want to just check where his snap percentage was.
Yeah.
It was only a couple games that he played, but his snap percentage was between 70
78,
and 80.
83, 74.
So that's what we're probably expecting him to get to at some point, I
Yeah.
guess. I forgot he only played 3 games last year. Wow. Amazing. Yep. Okay, well, is there a bust for you on
For
Dustin's
sure.
team this week?
That's going to be Jalen Waddle. Worst game of the season. 2 points, only 1 catch, 15. You have to think Mike McDaniels is going to be gone before the season's over. Might be gone this week. He was kind of surprised that
Should have been gone. Should have been gone last week and the week before
Black
and the
Monday
week before that.
didn't come for him. But is he beating Atlanta? I don't think so. Baltimore should have Lamar back. I don't think they're beating us, even though how bad we are. But again, he's now at that 1A role in this Dolphins offense that's supposed to be pretty good, but only 4 targets season low, 1 catch season low, 15 yards season low. Get absolutely demolished by the Browns. So positive game script as well. Just I guess they couldn't block long enough for Tua to get on the ball, but just an overall just bad week. And Atlanta's defense next week, good defense. What does that look like? Are they just gonna double up Waddle and say, hey, someone else beat us? I don't know. But just a little concerning, just because he's really the only pass catcher they have. He is my bust for week 7.
And if you remember a couple episodes ago of the pod when Tyreek Hill got hurt, I said Jalen Waddle to the moon. Even then, not even I could have predicted how awful and miserable it would be just a few short weeks later for the Dolphins. Tua just looks like he's completely given up. His press conferences are weird. McDaniel's press conferences are weird. They're just bad. I can't even believe that McDaniel is still the head coach there. It's just the weirdest thing. I've never seen anything quite like it.
McDaniels for offensive coordinator next year for the Ravens.
I saw that.
When they get rid of John Harbaugh.
Okay, we'll see. All right. Well, happier news for Dustin.
Yeah.
We know that he is the tight end whisperer.
Yeah.
He did it with Brock Bowers last year. He selected Tyler Warren this year, and he continues to dominate. He had 14.9 points this week. He is now the number 3 tight end and has top 7 finishes in 5 of his 7 games. So, Adam, if we were redrafting today, buy or sell, Tyler Warren is the first tight end off the board.
Oof.
That tells you all you need to know.
Assuming everyone's healthy.
Sure.
Who is it? Bowers. Can you pull up who are the
Bowers,
first?
Bowers, McBride, Kittle, Kelsey, Laporta.
I think I'd still rather have McBride. I
Okay.
think there's less weapons on that Cardinals offense than there are on the Colts. The Colts are like sneaky. Like they have like Josh Downs, Michael Pittman, Alex Pierce, Jonathan Taylor's going to get 25 carries a game. So they have like pieces there, which I don't think that Arizona does. But 2, 3, yeah. I mean, two or three tight end off the board. Be very interesting to see if he continues this, what he looks like next year, where he goes.
Yeah, I'm curious to see. Like, we haven't talked about Brock Bowers because he hasn't been playing, but like, I don't. As that team is in disarray, he's going to get a lot of targets,
Yeah, I mean, I
but the
faded him a
quarterback.
lot just because I always talk about this. It's like we can't base future production on past results, especially when you have a new quarterback, new head coach, like new offensive scheme, everything like
Yep,
that. And that really was showing even before Brock Bowers got hurt.
I totally agree there.
Yeah,
Okay, the losing side here, Tom, the Finksburg Kings, 1-6,
yeah,
number 12 in the standings. I had a hard time thinking about what to talk about here. I
yeah,
mean, Jaden Daniels gets hurt. It looks like he's probably going to miss more games this season. He's already had one injury stint. He'll be potentially missing another game or two, perhaps. Great matchup here. Was missing some wide receiver pieces, which maybe limited his upside against a terrible Cowboys defense. But 17 points here, and I believe left this game at some point.
yeah,
So unfortunate news there.
yeah,
And then the rest of this team, I mean, look, you get nice production, 10 targets for Cortland Sutton, 13 fantasy points, and 12 targets for
yeah.
Jordan Addison, 17 fantasy points. Brandon Aubrey, we appreciate a good kicker, 18. Eagles, we
Hmm.
appreciate a good defense, 12. The bench, like Keishon Butte with a nice game for the Patriots here,
He's just
12
like
and a half points.
impossible to trust. It's so frustrating. Like
Well,
you're
yeah,
like,
2 targets.
I know that's what I mean. It's like crazy. You did like the T.J.
Saves his
Hawkinson
day with the
nine
touchdown.
targets there though.
I mean, all the young receivers we've been talking about, Ayuman 3
Yeah,
points, Matt Golden 5 points, Krosky Merritt might be your bust. He's 3 points here.
yeah,
So just just can't get that production from these young guys. There's just no consistency. There's no level of trust that these guys are going to just become, elite players for their
yeah.
teams this year. Maybe next year, but probably not this year. So, is there anyone you liked here, Adam?
Oh, you know I like somebody.
Addison.
Brandon Aubrey. We're gonna do the
Okay. All
first
right.
ever beast
Jeez.
kicker. Brandon Aubrey. I just want to say, watching him kick a ball is like one of the most
You said
satisfying things I've ever seen. What do you mean? Have
said
I
that.
said this
You
before?
said yes, absolutely. You've said this. I
Well,
guarantee you. At
it's
three,
so
2 or 3.
satisfying. He kicks it so straight. There's never any curve to it or anything like that. He's a soccer player. He's from Notre Dame. He scores 18. Number one overall kicker. You know I love kickers. He is my beast
Jesus.
for week 7.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, hard to argue with that. You did mention Addison last week, I believe.
Yes.
So you may as well shake it up a little bit. Okay. Pick your bust.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be Saquon. I
Oh,
mean,
not even Krosky Merritt. Wow.
no, we're
Okay.
gonna go Saquon. It just we talk about it as we're drafting. It's like you gotta hit on that first round draft pick to be successful in this league. Saquon is just falling off a cliff. I don't know what the hell's going on. I again have him in another league. Now the 16th ranked running back, only 2.4 yards per carry. Nothing happening in the passing game either, which I feel like last year he had a lot more involvement. I mean, I'm just looking at it real quick. Not really, but not as this low as it was this year. I mean, he had negative yards in this one. Now against a tough defense, but again, he goes against the Giants this week. He went against the Giants in Week 6, only scored 7 points. So Eagles' offensive identity, what do they want to do? Offense is not as good, I think, as people think it is. I think there's a lot of like who gets the ball, when, what, how, what kind of game plan you want to go with. But now only has 369 yards on the season, um, 16th overall. Bad, not good so far. He's my buzz for Week 7.
Okay. I, I I do want to spend a minute on Krosky Merritt because look, we were looking at this. This was the matchup against the Cowboys. This was,
Yeah,
Krosky Merritt had a nice game. a couple weeks ago against the Chargers. Everyone thought that was the breakout. 26 fantasy points. He was RB5. He had the Bears tough matchup last week. Struggled there, but down to 3.7 fantasy points against the Cowboys.
Yeah.
Under 50% of the snaps where he has consistently been. Like, man, you lose Eckler. If you're the Commanders, you lose Eckler in week 2. Chris Rodriguez hasn't really done anything. Jeremy McNichols is kind of a gadgety pass-catching guy. So for Krosky-Merritt to only get 50% of the work, his lowest yards per carry on the season, under 3, not involved very heavily at all in the passing game. Like, that's a bummer, because I thought he was a guy that really had a chance to take off this week.
I really think that the Commanders just got boat raced in this one. I actually watched this game a lot. Like, they could not stop Dallas. Like, they just could not stop them. Like, they were moving the ball down the field, everything like that. I think they just got away from it, from the running. I mean, it just kind of is what it is. Not that it gets much better next week, because they have Kansas City, and they're at Kansas City. Maybe they want to try to slow the ball down a little bit, slow the game down, getting that running established. But, Jane Daniels might be out next week, which kind of hampers that as well. You might have Marcus Mariota starting. So, concerns for sure, and you're hoping for a little more with him being that number 1 running back in this offense.
All right, well, I flipped it back to Krosky-Merritt, but I actually want to now go back to Saquon Barkley, because I did want to ask you a question about Barkley.
Yeah.
We may have reached rock bottom. You kind of alluded to
Yeah.
it. Like, this is really bad. 4.7 points, 18 carries. Like, the work is there, but the production is not.
Yeah.
So after this disappointing performance, I don't know if you noticed, Adam, but Tom officially placed Saquon Barkley on the trade block in Sleeper. So I'm not sure whether Tom is actually actively going to shop him.
No, I don't think so.
What he has to gain by trading him, or if this is just kind of a statement of frustration, kind of just a representative, a symbolic gesture to show his.
It's a coach sending a statement to his player.
There you go. I like that. I like that. So let's assume Tom is serious about this. He's not, but if you were to try to trade Saquon Barkley, I mean, granted, he was a number 1 pick a number 1 first round pick. What could Tom potentially get for Saquon Barkley at this point? Like, anything? Do you think anybody in the league?
Devontae Adams? I mean, is that like around the wide receivers that you're thinking? Like a George Pickens? Like, if you're trying to go wide receivers now, you don't really want to go running back to running back, because that's a little more difficult. But, like, is that around where we are? I don't know. I still think Saquon can turn it around. I just think that their offensive line is not as good as it was last year. And he's not the focal point of this offense. It's like, I've been saying this for a couple of weeks. They have like an offensive like identity crisis. They don't know what they want to be. AJ Brown also sending cryptic tweets doesn't really help anything, because now they're like, okay, well, we have to get him the ball. So Saquon's not going to be one to complain to media about his workload. They won this one as well, so he's definitely not going to say anything. It's just like I don't know, Jalen Waddle. Like where? What's the point? I don't really think that there's really any really good return to value that you would trade for Barkley, because of his upside that he still has potential to reach.
Yeah, I co-sign on everything there.
So don't trade him. We'll veto it.
There you go. All right. Last matchup, Adam. It's us.
No one's listening anymore anyway, so this is just for us.
The worst for last. By the way, just, like the thing I do with buys, there's a bunch of teams on buys. I didn't pull out the players like I normally do. I forgot to do that. But I don't even want to do beast or bust.
No, let's not even do it. You know what? We're the end of the week. It's fine. We're cool with doing that. Let's just talk about kind of how that matchup went through, Thursday through Monday.
All right. Well, yeah. Let's start on Thursday, right? Because it was my team with like unexpected. Hey, okay, we found something here. It was the Steelers and the Bengals in a really entertaining game with some veteran quarterbacks. I didn't really care too much about the quarterbacks. I was concerned about the wide receiver
Yeah.
for the Bengals, Higgins, who, like Chase, had a very good game, 6 for 10, 96
Yeah.
yards and a touchdown, 18 fantasy points, by far the best of the season for him. Similarly, Jaylen Warren, his best performance of the season, 16 for 127,
Yeah.
more than doubling his highest yardage on the year. So it was a great start for me, Adam. You gave me the very expected from you good game that
Gave
worked
him the
out for
old
you in the end.
GGs on Thursday.
But what are you thinking there?
Yeah, I mean,
Was that a
I actually did think I was in a lot of trouble. I mean,
yeah.
Jalen Warren having his best game, T. Higgins coming out of nowhere with Joe Flacco, just like Jamar Chase having a very nice day as well. I'm looking at the rest of it. I'm saying Amon-Ra. I'm seeing Caleb Williams in a very plus matchup. I'm seeing Travis Kelce in a plus matchup. I'm a concerned Luke McCaffrey with Deebo Samuel being out, Terry McLaurin being out as well. I'm like, well, he's going to catch a couple balls. I'm definitely concerned on Thursday, for sure. For sure.
Yeah, then Sunday comes.
Yeah.
I don't know. Did we have anyone going in that early London game? Was it
Yeah, I
Rams
had
and
Travis
Jags?
Etienne.
Right. Okay. So ETN, wake up Sunday
Not good.
morning, watch this game. ETN just could not do anything, couldn't get anything going. I'm like, oh, maybe this is the week for me. My
Yeah.
my percentage is ticking up there. ETN struggles, 8 carries, like horrible for ETN.
And I just want to
The
let
Rams
anyone know
just
that's listening to this is like, our matchup was a roller coaster of hell. Like, it was like, oh, I feel really good. Now I feel really bad. I feel really good. I feel really bad. It was awful. But yeah, ETN against the Rams, nothing happening. Rams a very good defense, though. Only scored 7 points. On the day, we get later into Sunday. I get some good production out of Michael Pittman and Dak Prescott. That really kind of was like, okay, I have a chance here. Even with Genty only running the ball 6 times. Jesus. And Trey Tucker not doing anything at all. I'm like, okay, got a chance. I got Kittle coming back. Luke McCaffrey did absolutely nothing. He had 0. I was like Trey Henderson did absolutely nothing. I was glad I was wrong on that call. Caleb Williams did absolutely nothing. I was like, I'm feeling good. Then Sunday night hits. I'm like, where the hell is George Kittle? Where is he? He was out there. I saw him running around with his blonde streaks of hair going in the wind. Absolutely nothing. I'm like, oh my God. I was in such a good position to win this stupid thing, and George Kittle throws a 0 bomb on me. And I'm just like, I'm like, not good. Not good. Goes into Monday. Amon-Ra gets off to like the best start I've ever seen him. I'm like, well, this game's over. And then just, for whatever reason, just stops. Just stopped.
Yeah, game script.
Yeah, game script. You got game scripted. So I'm like, okay, well, Cooper Kupp, Fairbairn versus the Seattle defense, and I think I had like an 8-point lead, something like that. Got a shot, and we talked about this all show, but I texted Pat. I was like, when Cooper Kupp threw that interception, I was like, that is the most horrible team, horrible matchup I've ever seen. Kind of play where your wide receiver gets an interception. Just perfect encapsulation of how horrible this matchup was. But Seattle was able to do it, and I got the win, going to 4-3. So how would you feel?
Yeah. Yeah,
This is just a therapy session at this point.
We talked about it before the show that I really wanted Dak Prescott in the draft, and you took him a pick before me. You did, classic, sniped him from under me, and we were kind of saying, like, if you had skipped on Dak Prescott, I would have taken him, and we probably would have been in opposite positions here. I probably would have, had your record, and you would have been down in the dumps where I'm at. Because what am I supposed to do?
Yeah.
Caleb Williams, like, a matchup against New Orleans, who's I think a beatable defense. 4 points. And you told me, you texted me, oh, I was, during the games. Well, I was just happy that you sat. I was worried that you were going to start Justin Fields. Justin Fields got pulled. He might not start next week. He got replaced by Tyrod Taylor, the kid of Tyrod Taylor.
The ghost of Christmas past, Tyrod Taylor.
6 for 12? 6 for 12?
That's so bad.
Like, you keep
New
telling
York
me
is where quarterbacks go to die. Like, remember back in the day when Sam Darnold was a Jets quarterback? Now look at him.
Well, here you go. Okay, perfect. I'm glad you mentioned that because, by the way, we watched a great Thursday night game with Aaron Rodgers and Joe Flacco.
Yeah.
Guess what team shared those quarterbacks in their recent history? The Jets. So, like,
they're so bad. Oh my god, I could not imagine being a Jets fan. And completely honest, I liked the Field signing. Like, I thought it was like, okay, not good NFL quarterback, but he'll be able to run the ball, they'll be able to do things. It's just Jets gonna Jets, man, and it's just been real bad for you because of that. Because I really thought that he was like an X factor, where he could have like scored 20, 25 points just on rushing ability. Because I could see him like running like 15 times a game, but like they just like refuse to do that, and it's weird.
Yeah, I mean, luckily for me, maybe Caleb Williams has Baltimore, Cincinnati, and the Giants.
You are starting Caleb Williams next week. I can tell you that much.
Well, I'm not starting Fields. That's for damn sure.
Baltimore made C.J. Stroud look like Joe Montana, and we just saw how bad C.J. Stroud was.
Yeah, it's completely rough. So here's the other bit of gamesmanship I tried to pull on you, Adam, and it didn't work. I said to myself, once I saw that Deebo Samuel was out, and Terry McLaurin was out, I saw Luke McCaffrey. Twitter is going off on, Luke McCaffrey to the moon, Luke McCaffrey to the moon. He's had a weird season. He's been returning some kicks, but he's been really efficient in the limited time. And I'm like, man, they have Chris Moore. They have some other rookie named Jalen Lane or something. And I'm like, okay, I'm gonna put some eggs in this Luke McCaffrey bucket. I'm gonna go swoop him up, and I'm gonna stick him in my starting lineup. And I sort of debated it and thought about it 10 ways from Sunday. And I'm like, you know what? At the end of the day, I don't trust Tony Pollard. This is Pollard coming off of a game where he went from 73% snaps without Tajay Spears to 43% with Tajay Spears. It's a matchup against New England, who's a good defense. They're going to be trailing. I sit Pollard, right? Because I'm like, I got to go with the upside. By the way, I picked up the Packers' backup running back, Emmanuel Wilson, because again, I think I'm going to get a golden egg laid in my lap here because it was looking like Jacobs was going to miss the game. I'm like, dude, I'm going to get a starter here who's actually looked good in limited time. Yeah, I'm going to start I'm going to have 50 points from McCaffrey and Emmanuel Wilson. I'm like, this is great. I'm gonna win. So anyway, then I find out that it wasn't going to be Wilson. It was going to be Jacobs. He was going to play. He did play. He had a great game. So I had to sit Wilson. And at that point, I waited. That was a late afternoon game. By that point, Pollard had already played. So I couldn't slot him into the flex spot. I knew I had to start Kupp, which I was prepared to do. Whatever. He throws an interception. That was just icing on the cake. But it was like, man, I took a chance. I felt like I needed to. I felt like I needed to shake things up. I didn't really even contemplate that Travion Henderson. We could talk for 2 hours, Adam, about our teams and just continue coming up with by the way,
14% snaps in freaking the game that they won is nuts. Patriots still planning for Travion Henderson to be a big part of offense. Yeah, it's like, go fuck yourself, Mike Rabel. Go fuck yourself, Mike Rabel.
Come on, man. I get a half a point out of Henderson And McCaffrey and Pollard's on the bench with 9. He caught 6 balls, which is the Tajay Spears role, by the way. He was 6 for 6 casually, by the way. So like 4 of his
Fantasy football so stupid.
3 of his 9 points were just catches in
Yeah.
half point PP. It's like, this is stupid. And then, let's just fast forward to last night. I
Yeah.
watched way more of this game than I should have, the late game. Fairbairn, I was like, oh, that's one of Adam's kicker favorites. I'm going to turn Fairbairn against him.
I mean, don't have a
It
bad
turns
game.
out that, honestly, like, look here. So I needed Cup. I needed the Seahawks to throw to Cup. They
Yeah.
were up big in this game scripted out of it. I needed Fairbairn to make some kicks. It got to the point where Houston was so desperate that
Yeah.
they had to leave the offense out on the field. They had to go for a 2-point conversion rather than take an extra point from Fairbairn. And then I needed your defense, your Seahawks defense, to get some garbage time scores from CJ Stroud, who, by the way, Adam, did I mention, is fucking awful. He's so bad. All I needed was like a touchdown or two, and that would have knocked your Seahawks defense down. Oh,
It's frustrating, but no one's listening anymore, so that's fine. Give me the bye weeks for next week, since we're done talking about our stupid matchup.
well, I don't have the players, but in terms of bye
Yeah,
weeks
just give us
in
the
week
teams.
8, it is the Arizona Cardinals. So not a ton there that you're missing. It is the Lions. You're missing a lot there. Amon-Ra St. Brown, that's me, by the way.
Yeah.
The Jacksonville Jaguars, okay, the Raiders, the Rams, and the Seahawks. So, like a couple good teams in there, some teams like the Raiders that you're not missing a whole lot out of. So,
I
6
am.
teams is a lot.
I am.
Oh, what, Trey Tucker?
And Genty.
Oh, and Genti. Well, I mean, did we even talk about him?
No, it's
3.9 fantasy points.
that whole stupid game. Okay, so those are the bye weeks. Let's go over the week 8 matchups. And that's going to be the Union Bridge Badgers at 4-3 against the Owings Mills Ozempic at 2-5. The Pratt Street Po Boys at 2-5. It's the Penn Prairie Wolves at 2-5 as well. Who can get out of the basement? Finksburg Kings 1-6 against the Westminster Wrecking Crew 3-4. Battle of the Roommates. Westminster Rockets at 4-3 versus the Berlin Banshees at 6-1, leading the pack. Curtis Bay Chump Buckets at 4-3 versus the Timonium Neon Tubes 5-2, and the Pasadena Pulverizers 5-2 against the Columbia Clown College at 4-3. So that is our show. Thank you all for listening as always. It will be out tomorrow morning, and we will see you next week. Goodbye, everybody.
Thank you for listening and your support. If you enjoyed the show, please make sure to like and subscribe on YouTube and Spotify.